So you may be wondering, who in the world is this guy that I have on my screen right here? Honestly, it's something that's caught my attention in the past couple days. I had heard about it, but I hadn't taken the opportunity to actually watch the video. But this right here is Nicolás Tagliafico, who is a great player for the Argentinian national team, who were just runners up at the World Cup. And prior to the World Cup, so a couple months ago, he took a trip to Genoa to visit a namesake bakery, so a bakery with his family surname that he has relation to. I just found it really cool because I think it's a popular trend that's happening amongst the Italian diaspora. Maybe not even just in the Italian community, but other communities as well. I just know the Italian one better. So I wanted to just kind of take a look at this video, do a little bit of like a react slash give some thoughts on not just his visit, but this kind of, I don't know, adventure in general that a lot of us are embarking on. After I recently visited one of my ancestral towns, I didn't quite have the experience that he had, but it's something that I'm seeing pretty common, especially amongst the younger generation, as we're very curious about where our our heritage comes from and what our family is still like that's there, whether they're first, second, third, fourth cousins. So let's take a watch.
La máquina en el medio de la calle. Le voy a mostrar algo que va a sorprender. Sí, señor, Tagliafico. Me puse una pasticcería en Genoa hace mucho tiempo y me está yendo de lujo. No, bueno, vamos a ver, le voy a mostrar el pasaporte y le voy a decir, muchacho, me imagino que me van a...
So basically, he's saying, if you don't understand Spanish, that he found, this bakery that obviously has his name, and he's gonna go take a look inside. And it's just a short clip from this longer video that he has that I found really interesting because he went out of his way to do this, right? This is somebody who is a global icon of a soccer player. I mean, he's not the biggest of the big, but he's well known. Has played in Europe for a long time. Plays on the Argentinian national team. Has won a World Cup, and this is somebody that's returning to his roots and going to explore a little bit about his family in a very humble way. I'm not saying that people in his position aren't necessarily humble, but I think it's a good showcase of, regardless of what walk of life you are, this is something that is affecting all of us, that is of interest possibly to all of us. So, within this, as you can kind of see here, he meets, I guess this is technically one of his cousins, right? And then he goes in the back and meets the family, and they talk about the family tree, which I find really cool, and how they're related and how they have family in South America, not just in Buenos Aires, where he comes from, but other parts of Argentina and Uruguay as well. And then, he meets a lot of people, kind of sees the bakery, and obviously there's a little bit of a communication barrier because he only speaks Spanish and they're speaking to him in Italian, but fortunately Latin languages you can understand enough, and a couple folks in there from, his distant cousins that spoke English. But yeah, I mean, it just was a really, really beautiful thing to see. This is a cool part too.
I don't know if my father, maybe my father just know me.
Okay. But you never asked about your grandfather?
My father knows everything about the genealogy.
The names of
Ricardo,
your... No,
my father,
okay.
Lorenzo.
Lorenzo. And before you
No.
there's a lot of Giacomo, Sebastiano, Serafino.
Serafino, sì.
Serafino, sì.
Sì, but I don't know exactly where is the...
Yeah, sure.
What is the really long...
Okay.
But yeah, I said, okay, I need to come to the
Okay, so you qualified, right?
Yes.
Good luck.
Yeah, so I mean, as you can see here, this part is obviously in English. This is somebody who knows a little bit of his family history, but not a lot. I mean, I think a lot of us find ourselves in that situation because sometimes our heritage is a little more distant, or we didn't catch all the stories before our grandparents passed away. But that's why I always think it's important to talk to your parents or your grandparents about where your family came from and stories about your family. And a lot of us also, my case included, we had relatives of our grandparents, great grandparents that went other places within the same country, but even within other parts of the world, or even internal immigration within Italy. So I think what he's doing here by visiting this bakery that he knew had some sort of connection and basically finding it out kind of there, like the history of it, just walking in. I think it's something we can take a page out of his book and all do. I mean, if we're in Italy and we're in an ancestral town or we're nearby to where our family came from, I think it's a really cool experience to be able to go back and do something like this. Now, was he treated better because he's a well-known soccer player? I don't know. I'm not going to hypothesize whether the treatment of him in this place was because he was quote unquote famous. I don't know. You can only see so much authenticity from a video versus living that in person to see kind of what the situation was or the experience. But the point being, there's a lot of reasons why, of course, people are turning back to their roots or looking more into their family histories, and my previous video talks a lot about that, which you can find here or here depending on where you're at. But it was really interesting to watch this. Like, I had a friend bring it up to me, and I was like, I gotta go back and watch the full clip, not just like see the pictures or the uh, little clips of it. I wanted to see the whole thing. It's like a little 7-minute video. I can also link this video in the description because I thought it was just a really cool thing to see. I mean, also, especially since a lot of people who follow me on socials are Italian American. I do have obviously a global following, but majority of the audience is Italian American. It's cool to also see somebody from another part of the world doing something very similar to what we do, right? Like, the desire to connect to your heritage has no borders or boundaries. Like, this is an Argentinian guy, multi-generational Argentinian, that literally has the same mindset as a lot of us, that wants to reconnect with family, reconnect with a hometown, or in this case, a business of distant cousins. I think it's a really amazing thing. And I had an experience last year in Italy on this same note. I did a free walking tour, and I met this guy who was Argentinian in his early 30s and was doing a master's program, I want to say somewhere in Europe, Prague or something. And he came to Italy for a couple weeks for vacation. But his vacation was sure to do some touristy stuff. Like, I met him in Verona and we were just kind of doing touristy stuff. But two of his main reasons, one were to meet his grandparents' siblings from his mom's side who live outside of Milan. So his mom's side immigrated from this area of Lombardia, that he went and visited his relatives, I believe, for the first time, right, and stayed with them. And then the second piece of it was his father's side was from Abruzzo, from a small town in Abruzzo. I think he said had like 200 or 300 people. He took an overnight bus from Verona to go to Abruzzo to visit this town, just to see what it was like, to spend a couple of days there, to go to the cemetery, find his, whatever, his great grandparents, brothers and sisters, or whatever, his genealogical tree in the cemetery, talk to people in the town. I never really followed up with him on how all of that went, but I think it was very interesting to see that. And that was about a year and a half ago. And I started to see this trend, before a year and a half ago. And I'm included in that trend. I'm not saying this is something I see on the outside. Like, I am included in that. I think in the last few years, I've become more and more interested in connecting with where my family came from, especially since I don't have any really live connections in today's in today. So it would be great to connect more. I went to my first ancestral town recently in Sicily. I have a ton of ancestral towns in Italy because my heritage kind of came from all over. But I think in the future I would like to hit them all. And I think I'm not the only one with that mindset. So it's cool, again, why I wanted to bring this up and talk about this, because this is not something that's just Italian American or Italian Canadian. It's Argentinians, Brazilians. Like, a lot of people are doing this. I've spoken to people on Instagram who have recently, in the last year or two, visited their ancestral towns for the first time. And I think it's profound for a lot of people, because a lot of times, especially if you have ancestry from just a particular area and the regional culture hasn't really faded in your family or adapted or mixed like in mine, you have a pretty deep connection still to that area, even if you're a few generations removed. You look a lot like the people, you act a lot like the people, you are familiar with the foods and the traditions, and sometimes even like dialect or regional language words. So I think that's really cool as well. But everyone's story isn't the same. A lot of us are, especially they come from heavily Italian cities like New York, Chicago, Buenos Aires, Sao Paulo. Like you might have a mix of northern and southern or central Italian, and you might not really feel super connected to a particular region. But regardless of that, I think this video goes to show you that even somebody like this, which I looked more into his background as well, and this is what I could find online, but it seems like his paternal side is Genovese and his maternal side is Calabrian. So again, it's this kind of completely opposite ends of the country mix that maybe doesn't have really a regional tie anymore. But to take the time to go do this, not just for someone who's obviously busy and is a global soccer player, but anyone like us, it's still effort, right? It takes effort to do the research. It takes effort to approach people and talk to them and try and figure out your family story. So I think this video had a pretty big effect on me, and like I've already started looking deeper into some of my ancestral towns that I haven't visited because I watched this video and I said to myself, this is just such a cool experience, right? And you can build new connections and also reconnect to where your family came from and just learn more if you're really curious about what your family history is or what life was like back then, or just understanding where you came from. Like, for example, you know, us in the Italian diaspora, at a maximum, most of our ancestors immigrated to our respective countries 150 years ago. Some of us, it's significantly more recent. Like, it could have been your great great grandparents all the way down to your parents. So there's this huge difference of like the waves of immigration and where they went and etc. So thinking that in Italy, these families may have been in the same place for 500 years, 1,000 years. They may have lived in the same small town in the mountains, right? So we're actually 50, 100, 150 years living in a new place, but our family history of the last millennium is really centered in one particular area, right? Or a couple particular areas. So I think it's really cool to see that. And as much as I recommend people to do it, I need to recommend myself to do it, right? I need to obviously make more of an effort in the next few years to make sure that I get to the ancestral towns that I want to get to. Anyways, to summarize what I was basically saying here, I think this video is super cool of an Argentinian national team player and, you know, solid club player, Nicolás Tagliafico, visiting his, I'll say, ancestral bakery. What I mean by that is a bakery run by cousins of his family, people related to his father's side, and just having this wonderful experience with a beautiful welcome, it seems like, from the people at the bakery and his cousins that he got to meet for the first time, and just kind of connect the dots. And you know, I enjoyed visiting my ancestral town. I didn't have this type of experience, but I think it's a profound impact to stand in the place that your ancestors stood, even if you don't know the full story and if you're standing on the same piece of earth or not. His case is a little easier because, again, he was inside of a physical location that was a bakery with his surname on it. But regardless, I think whatever your experience is, whether it's from the smallest bits to something a little more in depth like this, to even planning an entire trip around it, which is even further in depth, I think it's really worth doing. And this video is also worth a watch. And it's kind of a first type of video I've done like this. So if you like this type of video, obviously let me know in the comments below. And if you like content like this, talking about what it's like being in the Italian diaspora, a little bit of Italian diaspora history, and connecting the different communities of Italian descendants around the world, then ORIUNDI is for you. Ciao for now, e alla prossima.